Doom, doom. Can't hear anything. What is going on? Oh, there we go. What is going on, everybody? It's been a hot minute. My camera's all off. There we go. Is that right? No. I like all my settings get messed up. The other day. There we go. That's pretty all right. I'm within the space that I need to be over here in my corner. Yeah. So welcome everybody to this very late week's episode of D&D&Chill. It's been a long week. It's been a stressful week. I'll tell you that much for absolute sure. So yeah, just kind of, wait, what is going on? Why does that look like that? Oh, that's weird. Whatever. But yeah, so just kind of hanging out tonight, wanting to chat. You know, we got to do the whatchamacallit here, the advent calendar. So figure we'll look at this together. But then I would I want to talk a little bit about something that we have talked before about. Where's my chat? Why can't I see chat? There we go. But we talked about that that D&D kind of supplement called Nimble. We had some very you know, tense words for it, I guess might be a way that you could phrase that. But today I was lucky enough to get 2 books in the mail. The first one, So You Want to Be a Game Master, by Justin Alexander. If you don't know, I talked about this over in the Discord just the other day. What a tome of book. Yeah, no, this is it is 544 pages from into the index. So yeah, this is almost 550 pages of a book. And the thing is that unlike something, you know, like Monsters Know What They're Doing, which is another book I'm trying to get. Hold on, I'm trying to get my Streamlabs up, or not my Streamlabs, my Stream Deck, so I can switch off the way that this camera is registering these, because I don't want to turn on my other camera. I know we've done that in the past. I don't even think I have it plugged in. Hold on, let me see. Oh god, this camera's gonna get all messed up. Oh god, it's all over the place. All hell's broken loose. Okay, all right, here we go. Let's put that back to where it was. Shit, motherfucker, you are connected. We're gonna let it do its thing. Let me see if I can get this hooked up. I hate hooking this thing up because it these webcams take so many resources that it just makes my computer act up. Yes, I know you have a low battery, but I recently changed like my camera settings so I can now turn this off and on as needed, because I'm not using a different, I'm using OBS directly now for this. Am I still set? No, this needs to be 6 feet. There, yeah, well, it's fine. There we go. That's right where, that's about where we want. I don't care. Yeah, let me hook this one up real quick. And oof, that was loud. There. And we'll try and bring this up because I do want to show these books. I do like them. Video capture device. Desk camera. Okay, there we go. And now we just need to add a filter to rotate it, because that made it a lot easier to deal with. Nope. Do that anymore. I don't know how to do that. Is it? It's not properties, is it? Oh yeah, it is. Flip vertically. Cool. Okay, there it is. That's what I thought. All right. Oh god. That. Hold on. Now it's gotta. I gotta flip it horizontally. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I don't know how I did this last time. God. Oh wait, here we go. Maybe this was it. Yeah, there we go. Flip horizontally. Flip vertically. Hey, there we are. That's exactly what I wanted. We'll kind of we'll put this up in there and do it like that, and we'll kind of rotate it just a hair. All right, there we go. Yeah, and let me just crop this in there. Don't need to see all my messages, and you don't need to see my dinner. But yeah, so like I said, I'm super excited. I've been looking forward to this book. I saw it. Matt Colville did some videos on it. The Professor Dungeon Master did some videos. Justin Alexander, if you don't know, he is actually the guy. He's actually the guy who runs the website known as the Alexandrian. And if you are unfamiliar with this and you are into D&D, I highly recommend checking it out. It is a really cool website that has a lot of interesting resources on it. He is, I mostly know Justin from his alterations to campaigns and stuff like that. So, but he does have really good, cheat sheets for stuff. So, but yeah, all kinds of stuff that he offers, information like, reviews, stuff on 5th edition, reviews for different adventures. And, so if it's been talked about in D&D, he probably has something on it. He has a lot of information here on this website, but go and check this out. You know, go and check out the alexandrian.net if you are curious to see more of his works. But this is a book, like I said, that I found out about because of Professor Dungeon Master and also Matt Coville. And I was super interested in it because I'm always looking to, get better at being a DM and, increasing my knowledge base. And if there's anything in here, and truth be told, I have not even begun to look in it. I was at work today, so I didn't have an opportunity to sit down and read this, although I did read another D&D book. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this. It's broken down into a couple different sections. We have dungeons, mysteries, raids, and heists, urban adventures, into the wild, and then information on creating your campaign, campaign status documents, how to learn a new RPG, the quick and dirty of world building, rumor tables, running combat, scenario hooks, all kinds of different things. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this yet. I have yet to fully read it. But yeah, I'm going to sit down with this probably over the next, couple weeks. And, maybe I'll touch on it after I've read through a good portion. So, but yeah, go and check this out. Like I said, a lot of people who are better DMs than I and people who are in the industry have given this a ton of accolades, including the likes of Monty Cook. So yeah, it's he was a co-creator of 3rd edition, so he's got some chops. Yeah, go check that out. But the other book that I want to talk about, I just wanted to compare this. This thing is huge. This thing is huge. The monsters know what they're doing. This is such a great book, but you don't have to read through this. You don't have to scout, read every page. You can pick and choose what you need. The party's gonna fight a kraken. Cool. Here's everything you need to know about a kraken. That's awesome. This one you actually do have to read. But we had talked about this before, and I finally got it in, and you can see the difference in one book over the other right there. This is the other book that I got, quite a difference. But I finally got Nimble, streamlining your 5e game. This was that little thing that we had talked about, that was a Kickstarter that I had backed. It was very fast to come out, and after reading it, I can kind of tell why. That we had some choice words about, and truth be told, I'm gonna close out that window real quick, that camera. Truth be told, I actually don't mind this now nearly as much as I minded it before. Now I'm gonna try and find, I do have, I gotta download it. Yeah, there it is, the final number 2. What's the difference? Wait, are these exactly the same? Hold on. I gotta bring up the PDF, because luckily I have the PDF for Nimble, so we can read it at the same time. These are exactly the same. What? Okay, that's really weird. Huh. All right, well, we're gonna open this up real quick. Nimble color. I will admit, when I first brought this up, there definitely was a bit of a sense of maybe I wasted some of my money. And the reality is that I actually don't think that as much anymore. I actually don't think that it's you know, as much of a time waster. But it definitely is different. How slow is this? Jesus Christ. These are oh, I see what he did. He has full spreads. Okay. So we don't want to do that. We want to do this. He's got full spreads. Okay, that's cool. All right. So yeah, I want to preface this by saying that I have not read through the entire thing. I read through up to about page 18. So we're kind of going to be looking at this a little bit together. I already have some opinions on some of the other stuff that is in here earlier. But I kind of want to go over this because I don't hate it as much anymore. So, and actually kind of make this fairly big. So, okay. So what is Nimble? Obviously we talked about this before. It's a way to it is a D&D supplement meant to streamline 5e. Now, from what I have read and what I have seen with this, streamline basically means taking out the dice. Okay, that to me is what it is what it more entails, is not having nearly as many dice rolls, but keeping the flow moving, you know, in more of the role-playing aspect and taking out the crunch. So first off, nimble attacks. So you don't roll to hit with this. Instead, what you do, and again, this was kind of one of the big things we talked about. It's just you roll the damage dice. So if you pick one die, and that's your primary die. If you roll a 1 on it, it misses. If you roll whatever the highest value is, then you succeed. So it kind of makes it like you're not, so it makes it so that you're not having to roll your d20 and adding a modifier to that. But so it means that you are more likely to hit. Okay, because the reality is what this is trying to do is it's trying to make it so that instead of having a player go up to a monster and swing their sword and they miss, and maybe they have extra attack and they swing again and they miss, and that sucks, and then you move on, it's like, well, cool, there goes my turn, I'll be here for the next 5 minutes doing nothing. This means that you are hitting more often, you're hitting more regularly, and you're kind of converting, you know, that to hit just straight into the damage die, you know, and how it does it. So like I said, you basically pick a primary die. So if, for example, you are if you're rolling multiple dice, let's say you're casting a fireball or something like that. Actually, fireball is a terrible example, but let's say, for example, you're fighting with a greatsword. Okay, a greatsword is 2d6. You pick one of those 2d6 to be your primary die. So I just grabbed 2 dice off my shelf. Can't see them. There we are. I have a green one and a purple one. So I would say, okay, my green one is going to be my primary die. So if I roll them, and I got a 4 and a 1. So that means that my green one was a 4. So that means that the attack hits, and I just add that up. So I can see that, okay, that hits. I got a 4 and a 1. I just deal 5 damage. So it takes out the necessity of rolling a d20 and saying, okay, I got a 19 plus my attack bonus, which is a +5. That's a 24. Does that hit? Yes. Okay, now roll damage, and now you're rolling damage and say, okay, cool, I got 5. So it does make it faster. I got to admit, it truly does make it faster if you consider you're just rolling 2 dice and you're not having to worry about whether or not the monster's AC is too high or anything like that. And there are ways that this is mitigated as we go along, so we'll see that. So instead of crits, where it's, normally you double your damage pool, or in my case, in my games, you get to roll, you get to roll the maximum, or you get to roll your dice pool, but you get the maximum. That's kind of the way that it does this, is anytime that you roll the highest on your damage, you get to roll that again, and you just get to add it. But you can keep doing that. So again, if, for example, you are, if your primary die is the 6, so like right there, I rolled a 6 and a 2, I get to roll that primary die again. If I get another 6, I roll it again. If I get another 6, I roll it again. I keep going until I don't roll another 6. And the cool thing about that is it's kind of like other game systems, like Vampire and White Wolf and Savage Worlds, that have exploding D10 systems. So it makes it so that you can do a lot of damage when you crit, especially if you get super lucky. All right. Also, PC critical hits ignore monster armor, and we'll get to that. All right. Saving throw spells ignore monster armor, do not miss on a 1, and cannot crit. So basically what that means, if you're casting Fireball, you are just dealing as much, you're just rolling the dice. Now, there is something that monsters can do to avoid that, and we'll get to that. But you don't miss if you roll a 1, and you're not critting. So, man, this is, hold on, I gotta see if the non-colored, if the black and white version of this is any faster. Oh, considerably. Okay, this is what we're gonna look at. As nice as this is, and honestly, I gotta say, I do really like the book. I like the art, and give you a bit of a taste of the art. It's very wonderful art. It is just chugging. So this is what we'll look at. Okay, so this is how the attacks work. Again, there's no rolling any d20s or anything like that. You're just straight up rolling damage. Now, one of the things about 5th edition D&D that a lot of people have complained about is action economy over the years, and one of the ways that other companies have tried to fix that, namely Paizo and Pathfinder, is by introducing the 3-action system, where you get 3 actions, you can do whatever you want with them. Some abilities cost 2 actions, some abilities cost 3, most of them cost 1. But that's kind of the way that this is working. So instead of having a move, an action, a bonus action, a reaction in combat, you just get 3 action points, and these recharge at the end of your turn. So you can use an action point to attack, move, use a bonus action or a reaction, drink a potion, cast a cantrip, bonus action or reaction spell, or any other more obscure action. Leveled spells with a casting time of 1 action cost 2 points. Now, the way that this works, and kind of the way that Pathfinder also had it work, is this would argue, well, if attacking costs 1 action point, can you attack multiple times? Yes. Now in Pathfinder, it's called MAP, M-A-P, the multi-attack penalty. And this kind of has the same thing. Whereas in Pathfinder, you take a -5 penalty to your hit for every additional attack, and that's a stacking bonus. So your first attack is made normal, your second attack is made with a -5, and your third attack is made with a -10. This has stacking disadvantage. So you can make multiple attacks, but you roll an additional die and you take away the highest result for each stack. So for example, let's go back to this great weapon that we were talking about, this great sword that we were talking about. So for example, let's say that I am attacking, let's say that, you know, I'm attacking a goblin, and I'm gonna roll, I have a red and a yellow die, so the red's gonna be my main one. So I rolled a 5 and a 4, so that's 9 points of damage. Cool. That goblin's dead. I want to attack another goblin. Okay, I'm now going to add in a pink die because I'm attacking with a penalty and I have disadvantage. So I roll those. I got a 4, a 4, and a 1. So I have to take away one of the 4s. So I still hit. Okay, I still do 5 points of damage, but let's say that I want to attack a third time. So I'm going to add a 4th die, and I'm going to roll all 4 of these, and I'm going to take away the 2 highest, which is leaving me with a 2 and a 3. So right there, 5 points of damage still. You can do this. And it does mean that you can get more attacks in, but you are spending more, you know, you can't move if you do that. You couldn't drink a potion or anything. And actually, there is something I really like about this system later on that we'll get into that kind of makes spending those points a little more valuable. So if you have something though, like it says over here, where it's Step of the Wind or Cunning Action, things that can be made as a bonus action, these can actually be done for 0 AP once per round. So a monk could use Step of the Wind and Flurry of Blows, but they could not use Flurry of Blows twice. So this means that the characters who have those kind of benefits, like 2-weapon fighting, okay, you're not, if you're attacking with 2-weapon fighting, that means that you can essentially make 2 attacks. Yeah, Flurry of Blows, that's basically it. You can make your main attack and then you do your Flurry of Blows. That is going to be made at 0 points. But you can only do it once. So you could do, you know, 2-weapon fighting, and you would be able to get that first attack and then the bonus action attack for free. But you cannot do 2-weapon fighting if you say attack again, or you could not do Flurry of Blows if you attack again. So it does keep it kind of balanced. Saving throw spells. Spells that trigger saving throws are considered attacks. However, instead of stacking disadvantage for extra saving throw spells, the saving throw rolled the stacking advantage for the target. So if I were to cast something that was a saving throw multiple times, it is not that I'm rolling with disadvantage. It is that my targets get to roll an additional die and take the highest. So they get to roll with advantage. And I want to say, I want to point out, I really like this, the creator of this book, I forget what his name is, Evan. I really appreciate that he puts examples after each one of these. So, for example, with this, special abilities, Swift the Monk spends 1 point to attack. He can then use his martial arts ability to make an unarmed strike for 0 action points. He'll also move with Step of the Wind for 0 action points. He'll use his second action point to attack again with disadvantage, and his third action point to attack with 2 stacks, rolling 3 dice and taking the lowest. So it's really cool because it kind of just allows you to see a good example of it. Like I said, I wanted to point that out. I like the fact that this book offers these examples. But yeah, like right here, Glow the Cleric takes out a goblin with her Sacred Flame. She then casts Sacred Flame again, 1 more action point, and her second attack. Her new target rolls 2d20 for its dex save. And if she casts it a third time, their target gets essentially double advantage. They get 3d20. Now, normally, D&D doesn't have stacking advantage or disadvantage, so this is definitely something where it deviates from that, but this whole thing is a deviation. Another cool thing is that he includes the designer notes, which kind of explains what their ideas behind it were. So, like it says here, this greatly improves tactical decisions. Grappling, shoving, moving, and reactions are all far more interesting choices now. You can attack 3 times at level 1, but there's diminishing returns, and only if you forego reactions and movement. Multiple attacks are rushed, making it easier for the enemy to dodge or resist. All right. And then, yeah, PCs still get 1 free action, dropping an item, opening a door, object interaction, stuff like that. Sorry, I'm eating some fajita mix. All right. On to the reactions. The reactions is actually something I'm very interested in. So, you can perform each reaction up to 1 time per round. And you will start your next turn with that many fewer action points. So, as a reminder, you get 3 action points per round, and they recharge at the end of your round. Now, I sat with this today as I was thinking about it, of like, well, that sucks that they don't you can't prepare yourself on your turn, because at the end of your turn, it's kind of everything you're doing is gone, and now you have to now you have these new points, but if I want to use a reaction, I'm going to be able to do less on my next turn. And I started to think about it well, what if somebody wanted to prepare to react and things? And honestly, this is giving you a much better option. I think in a lot of cases, having this, I think with this, having it be that you have access to all of your action points as soon as your turn is over, means that you have to make those choices of, do you react? Because there's nothing in here that says you can't react multiple times. In 5th edition, there are so many times that I have seen players sit there and hum and haw over, do I want to react right now? Do I want to react right now? Do I want to wait? Do I want to use another reaction? Do I want to save it in case I'm going to have, an opportunity attack? or something like that. And it sucks because then, you know, the turn goes and, you know, nothing happens. Or when you ready a spell, or you ready an action and nothing comes out of that. You know, it's you spend this time, you know, thinking about like, oh, well, when the goblins come out of this door, I'm going to cast this spell, but then the goblins never come out of the door, and you've kind of wasted, you know, you wasted an action, but you also are wasting a reaction. Or if you use a reaction, but then, you know, you have like 3 enemies run past you, and you know, you kind of kick yourself for not saving up for an opportunity attack. So these reactions, other than what you can already do in, you know, with your character, these are changes to different actions that already exist in the game, to make them more of an in the moment decision. So the first one, we have block and dodge. This replaces the dodge action. So no more are you going to kind of like use an action to hunker yourself in and, you know, impose disadvantage on, nope, yep, don't want that up there. You know, no longer are you going to impose disadvantage on those attacks and, you know, get a bonus to your dexterity saves. Now the way that it works is, as a reaction to you taking damage, you can reduce the damage from any attack equal to your AC modifier. Now the AC modifier, this is something that will come in later, because obviously you can see like AC -8. That's not normally how armor class is figured, but if I'm not mistaken, because I want to say, where's my book? There it is. I want to say it's just the AC modifier is whatever your armor class is -8. Let me double check that. Armor class reflects your ability to resist, absorb, dodge. You can use reaction to block. All right, is it in here? Yes, okay. AC, just like your normal ability scores, only your AC modifier is commonly used. This is how much damage you can mitigate. Your AC modifier, okay, yeah. So, by standard, your AC modifier is -8. So, and I guess, let me double check. Yeah, we'll get to this eventually. I know we will. Yeah, we'll eventually get to it. I guess we'll eventually get there. But yeah. So you can use a reaction to reduce some damage, which honestly is one of those big things for me. I've had players in the past where they get hit and they're like, well, can I like try and dodge out of the way of it? And it's like, well, no, that's why that's why you have an armor class. That's why I rolled to hit you. That was that whole thing. And it always feels like, you know, it's one-sided. You know, it is me rolling against a number on your sheet. So honestly, I get that. But the reality of, you know, taking out the hit, and it's just like, okay, this is just gonna hit damage, might miss, but this is just gonna deal damage. And it's like, well, cool, I want to try and reduce that. So, you know, maybe you have a shield, so this would be +2, you know, or maybe you're wearing heavy armor and, you know, maybe it goes up to like a 12 or something like that. All right, so opportunity attacks. I actually really like this. It is a melee attack made with disadvantage when an adjacent enemy moves away. So it's made with disadvantage. And the reason why it's made with disadvantage is because it has become very specific to only certain creatures. Common monsters do not make opportunity attacks. Only PCs, legendary monsters, bosses, and other leaders, as determined by the DM, that are a cut above the rest. So this means it opens up the battlefield for the players. This is actually the way Pathfinder has it. Not every monster has an opportunity attack. Not every PC has an opportunity attack. You have to have an ability in Pathfinder to do opportunity attacks. So the cool thing with this, like it says here, like it says over here, it's made with disadvantage because when somebody is running away, you are having to change, you know, your action stance, basically. You know, you've done your thing, you know, your turn just finished, and now suddenly somebody behind you is moving. You're having to like swing back there, and you know, it's not something that is super easy to do in that spur of the moment. So it makes it something that's a little bit more, you know, opportunistic. It makes it something that you are having to really push for. So I like the fact that it's made with disadvantage because it makes you focus on other things. Interpose. If an ally within 10 feet of you would be struck with an attack, you can push them out of the way and become the target of the new attack. That's cool as shit. I really like that. You basically move them out of the way, and this part very much reminds me of the interceptor, or the interception fighting style, where you can push, or you can impose yourself in the way of somebody getting attacked. You need to be wearing a shield, or you need to have a simple weapon. But basically you get to reduce the damage, and you are, wait, is it interception? Wait, fighting style. Yeah, it's interception. Okay. Yeah. Wait, no, it's not. Sorry, I'm looking at all the fighting styles on my other screen. Hold on. Yeah, no, it has to be that. It has to be interception. Yeah. Use raid action to I don't know, there was one. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But anyway, I really like this. I like this interpose. So it makes it so that, you know, if you are somebody who is you know, slightly higher in HP, maybe you're a paladin, or maybe you're a barbarian, it kind of makes it so that it makes sense for you to be around some of the weaker characters. Help. Grant an ally advantage on an attack, skill check, or save if you can reasonably explain to the DM how you can help. And it's limit 1 help action per roll. I like this because it specifically says that you can reasonably argue. Everyone likes to help one another, but unless you can explain how you're helping, no. All right. And here's a cool one. Assess. In combat, a PC can spend 1 action point to make a skill check to uncover information, spot a weakness, intuit enemy tactics, or plans. So, like it says down here, a DC 8 insight check could reveal that the enemy's going to attack the cleric the next turn. A DC 14 perception can reveal where a group of enemies are going to go or who they're going to attack. DC 18 arcana check could reveal the weakness or mechanics of a relevant magic creature. DC 22 examination check might reveal an enemy's soft underbelly, thereby lowering their AC by 1 step or granting advantage on all attacks for a round. Something like that is absolutely awesome, because if you are somebody that wants to play up like, you know, a Monster Hunter style character, or somebody who studies creatures and is like, you know, a real hunter tracker kind of character, assess is something that could help out the rest of the party. Okay, if you're very into trying to read monsters, you can use this to figure out like, hey, I want to assess them. Okay, cool. All right, you know, let's make a, you know, what do you want to do? And it's like, well, I want to make an examination check, which is actually a skill check later on in this. But it's like, oh, I want to do nature to see if I know anything about their physiology or something like that. So super cool with these. I really like how these reactions are laid out. And I also like that these are 5 reactions that anybody can take. You know, in 5e, it's only opportunity attack that is shared across everyone. Block / dodge, interpose, help, and assess are really cool ways to just add more versatility in combat. But also, because it's going off of the AP system, you could technically do any of these off of your turn. It just means on your turn you can't do anything, and that's kind of the one downside. I mean, that is kind of one of the drawbacks, and you know, one of the things you have to balance with this system, since your points come back at the end of your turn. That means as soon as you do what you got to do on your turn, you get all of your points back. And now you have, you know, until the start of your turn to use 3 reactions. But you kind of also have to balance it out of, you know, do I want to block this damage, or do I just want to like take this damage so that I can attack, you know, even stronger next time? Or maybe you're a caster, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I want to, you know, I want to block this damage, so I'm going to block this damage. And then it's like, you're about to be hit again. It's like, well, shit, I could block this damage, but then I won't be able to cast a leveled spell. So it makes tactics a lot more important. But honestly, I would kind of love to see, you know, I would love to figure out a way to get block / dodge into 5e standard. You know, it's like, as a reaction, you know, as long as you're wearing a shield, or maybe not even that, but like, because anybody can do this, but it's like, you know, as a reaction, you can reduce, you know, an amount of damage equal to, you know, your, I don't know what it could be. Yeah, that's the thing. You would want it tied to your AC by some kind, but it's like, I don't know how you would make this. I think this works for this system because of the action points. All right, moving on. Dying. Dropping to 0 HP does not knock you unconscious. Instead, you gain a level of exhaustion and you are dying. This has been talked about in a number of different YouTube videos, different content systems. Nobody likes when they go down that they can't do anything and they're just making death saves. So the way that this works is when you have the dying conditions, your action points are limited to 1 per round and you cannot concentrate on anything. In addition, while you are dying, any attacks or spells that you cast, you have to make a DC 12 strength save. If you fail, you take a level of exhaustion. If you take damage while dying, you take 2 levels of exhaustion, and if you're hit with a crit, you take 3. Now, the exhaustion system on the right here, this is exactly the same as the new 1D&D one. It's just a cumulative level 6, or I mean level or -1 to all D20 rolls. But I don't like that it says when outside of combat, because I actually think it should be on like your saves and stuff. But This one limits it to 6 still. It is still a big limitation. So a PC dies when they receive their 6th level of exhaustion, whereas the new one, 1D&D, goes all the way up to level 10. So I actually don't mind this because it doesn't give players like so much freelance that, you know, they be out there basically killing themselves. But it gives them enough that they can play with. But it does still mean that, you know, you take 3 attacks when you're down when you're dying and you die. So, and since when you would be down in normal 5e and you would take 3 death fails and that could come from 3 attacks, then that rate there is, you know, it's a balance. But it allows you to keep going. You know, you can't cast spells because you can't use, you know, you're only limited to 1 AP. So you could move. And I guess if you were a monk, technically speaking, you could attack twice with Flurry of Blows. Because you could get that, or you could Flurry of Blows, you could get those extra attacks in. Or you could use Step of the Wind and run as quickly as you can, maybe to get away from an enemy. But I like what it says in the designer notes. Going unconscious and being in timeout is not fun. Instead, now you can still play your turn and have choices to make. Do you block, run away, drink that last potion? I mean, that's another thing. It makes potions, you know, super valuable, because arguably that would take you out of the that would, you know, kind of get you back up a bit. So now the only thing that this doesn't say is, you know, do you recover from the dying condition once your hit points are back up, which I would argue it would. It just doesn't say it outright as far as I can see. But yeah, I like this. I like the fact that it's still giving the players something to do when they are dropped to 0. Oh, here's another thing that I really like and almost want to implement in my own games immediately. Long rests require 6 hours of sleep in a safe place designated by your DM, typically lodging at an inn. They would still keep the levels of exhaustion. Yes, 1 level of exhaustion is recovered per long rest. So they would have those -1s the whole time until they long rested and, you know, got rid of those. But yeah, they would 100% keep keep the exhaustion. But speaking of long rests, a long rest requires at least 6 hours of sleep in a safe place designated by your DM, typically lodging at an inn. Camping in the wilderness or in a dungeon is not sufficient for gaining the benefits of a long rest. That would give a little leaned into advantage for those less affected by exhaustion and recover it sooner. I don't know if those are, if those, I mean, yeah, it would be like, you know, a short rest, you know, you could reduce it. But I would say right now, this is still working the same way that 5e is. But yeah, so camping in the wilderness or a dungeon is not sufficient enough to get the benefits of a long rest. So if you're out and about, you're on travels and you're just camping in the woods, you are not getting a long rest. So the cheapest rooms save money, but can lead to complications. So, and then on the other hand, some rooms that are nicer and more premium can give you a boon. So basically, when you go to an inn, depending on the cost of the rooms, you will either have a complication or just have a normal night's sleep, or possibly have some kind of benefit. Now, the benefits are recover all your hit dice, gain temporary hit points, gain even more temporary hit points. You move a little bit faster for the day. You gain inspiration, or you can heal 2 levels of exhaustion. The complications, though, these are great. Now, granted, if you're in a poor place, you got a 25% chance of having a complication. If you're in a modest place, it's 12.5%. But you could be robbed blind, losing all of your coins. I would argue it would only affect one player. Whichever player might have like the lowest perception score. Because that to me makes more sense. But your coin purse feels lighter, lose half of your total coin. Contract a disease, must find out how to cure it, gain 1 level of exhaustion. Pests got into your supplies, will cost 1 d20 gold to replace. Was it sabotage? Who knows? 6 through 8. Nothing. Everything was fine. No complication. A restless night's sleep. You get no extra hit dice. You make a contact that could prove very useful for the future. So, hey, something nice. You overhear a valuable clue about something you really wanted to know. Again, something nice. Choose any temporary boon or complication on this page. So yeah, I really like this. That brings up Tiny Hut. So arguably, Tiny Hut does offer a comfortable and dry environment to rest in, but I would argue that there might be, it might be something where if you are out in the wilderness, while you might be camping, okay, or while you might be in a tiny hut, I would probably argue that that's only going to give you the benefits of a short rest. Okay, because tiny hut is not a place designed necessarily, like you are out of the elements and nothing can get to you, but you are still out in the wilderness. It is still essentially camping, whereas long rest is gonna be at an inn. So, or would be at somebody's house, at a tavern where you actually get an opportunity to sleep, or, maybe you're staying with a businessman in his mansion or something like that. Also, wouldn't those who have good survival be accustomed to getting good? But see, that's the thing. It's, you could try and make that argument now of why don't people with a better survival score get some kind of bonus when they rest? They just don't. Okay, that's the bottom line. Because if we have not argued for that in normal 5e, I'm not going to begin to argue that for this. I actually really like this system because short rests require 1 hour to catch your breath and tend to your wounds, but could also be a full night spent camping under the stars. So you're still gonna get, some hit points because you're gonna be able to spend your hit dice. But if you have made a fire, all of your hit dice are made with advantage. But this still means it incentivizes players to not just wander the wilderness from dungeon to crypt to, cave and never go back to town. And I get that, maybe doesn't fit some of the players. I'm not sure what you're saying. You mean those with higher survival don't get a buff? No, there is no buff in 5e. If I'm playing, say, a Wood Elf Ranger who has a +9 to their survival, and I'm traveling with a High Elf Wizard who has a +1 to their survival, I'm not getting anything benefit. I'm not getting any benefit when it comes to long rests, and when it comes to short rests, sleeping outside. though. I meant because they didn't get a buff in 5e. But that's what I'm saying. Like the point I'm making is I've never once tried to make that argument, and I have never once had somebody try and make that argument that because they have a higher survival score, they should get some kind of benefit or boon or buff to resting out in the wilderness. And so with that, I'm not necessarily going to start with this system. You know, again, I personally really like this whole thing of how camping in the wilderness or inside of a dungeon does not give you, you know, is not sufficient enough to give you the benefits of a long rest. It'll give you a short rest because even hunters, even rangers still regularly have to, you know, they have like a cabin in the woods. They have some place that they go to, you know, they have a cave, you know, that is furnished, you know, and arguably you could get into super nitty gritty survival stuff, but I'm not about that. But yeah, like I said, I really like this. And like it says here, resting in the wilderness or in a dungeon after every battle is the bane of DMs everywhere. It breaks encounter balance, strips the game of interesting choices that resource management brings. Additionally, it forces the DM to use random encounters as a cudgel to keep the party from resting, slowing down the game needlessly and making the DM an adversary. And that is true. That is true as can be. You know, this is the whole thing. One of the reasons why, you know, you have dungeons in D&D, the whole thing about having a dungeon is to push and stress the resources your players have. This is why action economy exists. This is why characters only have so many things they can do in a day, or, you know, once per long rest, once per short rest, you know, so many times a day. So they have charges. It's because you want to push your players to exhaust their resources. But if your players are out in the woods or they're in a dungeon and immediately after every battle every battle or two, they're like, okay, well, I'm out of all my good spell slots and I'm out of all my resources. So let's go, let's leave and let's come back once we're fully charged. And it's like, well, okay, so why am I even going to try running, you know, a 10-room dungeon if it's going to take 5 days for you guys to get through it? Because every room, you know, after every, you know, room or two, you're going to go and rest, or, you know, you're going to go and take 4 hours to recuperate, to recover as much as you can. I mean, this is a thing that DMs have to sit and think about, because you want to push your players' resources to the limits. You also don't want to make them so ridiculously, you know, draining that your players are not wanting to do stuff, and then they just, you know, have all their resources at the end, but they struggle through it all. Or worse, they spend everything in the beginning and then they struggle through the rest of it. You want there to be a balance. And so having something like this where it's like, hey, look, you can't just go into the dungeon, come out, and then go to sleep for 8 hours and go back in. You have to go the whole way back to town. You know, you have to go somewhere, or, you know, you have to go, and maybe maybe the players have to, it's an opportunity for them to meet an NPC. Okay, maybe they meet Mozon Stormfoot, you know, the dwarf mountain tracker that leads expeditions across the Sword Mountains. Okay, he's got a cabin on both sides of the mountains and a small resting shack at the top of the mountain. Great. So that means that there are places to rest. But what happens? Oh, the players rest at his cabin on one side. They start to trek up the mountains. They get up to the resting point, and maybe they had an encounter or two. Maybe there was an avalanche, okay, that they had had to push past. Maybe there was a white wormling that came down from from a small alcove that attacked them, or like, I don't know, like a manticore or something like that. And when they get up there and they're going for that rest, they suddenly find out the whole thing has been destroyed by a frost giant, or by a troll, like a frost troll or something like that. So what are the players to do? Well, fight off the monster possibly, or and then try and repair the shack so that they can rest, or get down the mountain as quickly as they can. So I honestly like something like this, because you can't just like, oh well, we'll go back to where that manticore was and we'll just sleep in his cave and we'll be fully healed and rested. No, it's like, you can roll some hit dice, you can take a short rest, but you're not going to survive that. So yeah, like I said, I'm actually super into this resting system. I love this. I love this little comment up here. My arm fell off. Let's take a nap in this spooky dungeon. I love it. I love it so much. All right, moving on to the next one. Mana. Okay, so I actually have to pull something up for this. Stop. Why are you? There we go. All right, so I got to pull something up for this, because not that one. There we go. So when I was reading this today, I got to this point and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Here's a mana system. Why is that slowly moving? Okay, so, but I got to this and I was like, oh, cool. Here's a mana system. I too have worked on a mana system, and I was very curious to see how it lined up. Now, this one, now I want to preface this by saying, I would imagine PCs might aim to go back to town more often if they were feeling, yes. So that's the thing. If players are having to leave dungeons to go back to town, or to go to a place where they can fully rest, that means they're not resting in a dungeon and you're having to do a bunch of random encounters, because now they're going back there to do a long rest. Okay, it's not just a quick short rest, because if they're trying to recover all their resources, they have to long rest. And like it says, that is at least 6 hours of sleep in a safe place. So that means that if they don't rest back in a town, they're not going to get back everything. So in 6 hours, that room in the dungeon might recharge. Those traps might get reset. More monsters might find their way into there. Things in the environment may change. An adventure's time frame might change. If you only have, like 1 day to figure out, to rescue somebody, or a day or two, you can't just keep going back and, resting as often as you want. Like, you still have to keep pushing that time frame, but it means that, your players aren't just sitting in the dangerous place and it's like, all right, well, we're going to sit here for the next, 6 hours or 4 hours or something like that. And get everything back, or, we're not going to sit right outside the dungeon door for the next 8 hours and, get everything back. I also like the fact that it would allow you to introduce more like not hunter gatherers, but like hunters and like trailsmen and mountain men, places where your players would have to rest and possibly buy lodging. Falcon's Hunting Lodge in the Phandalin setting is very much on brand with that, where the players find themselves, they're like, okay, we'll go to Falcon's and we'll rest there, but he's going to charge us. You know, that's the whole thing. I had a funny thought that someone raised: in the country might find a city too noisy to rest properly. You know what? And that is a possibility. That is a possibility. I mean, I would honestly argue that would be more flavor than anything. But hey, they want to take that risk. That's actually why I really like these complications. It's like, oh, you're out, you don't like the noise of the city, so you want to go somewhere, just outside the city's borders to rest. Okay, you find a small, you find a small inn, or you find something quiet. You find a small animal keep or pen, and you sleep there. But the next thing you know, you wake up in the morning, and rats got into your supplies, and they've carried off half of your coin or something like that. But yeah, so moving on to mana. Like I said, I have toyed around with mana systems in the past where instead of having spell slots, you have a number of mana points equal to the total amount of spell levels that you have. So essentially, a full caster, bard, cleric, druid, sorcerer, and wizard, at second level, they only have 3 first level spell slots, so they only have 3 points. But at third level, they have 4 first level spells and 2 second level spells. So since a first level spell can often be upcasted to a second, this is essentially the same thing as 4 first level spell slots. So that's a total of 8. And we just keep going with that. So full casters get up to 89 points once they finally reach the end, with the caveat that, some spells they can only, some spell levels they can only cast so many times a day. Like with 89 points, arguably you could cast, you could cast 9 ninth level spells. Okay, that's not how the game is meant to be played. So in the system that I had come up with, it was 8th and 9th level spells can only be cast once per day at most. But anything lower than that can be kind of cast around. But I was curious to see how this would line up, because the way that this system works is that the mana pool for a full caster is equal to the number of spell slots they have plus their level. Now for wizards, something like Arcane Recovery, that allows them to regain mana equal to half of their level, and sorcery points, which you can convert into spell slots, are converted on a 1-to-1 basis. Half casters, like the Paladin, the Ranger, and the Artificer, have an amount of points equal to their level plus their proficiency bonus. And quarter casters, which I actually never even made a list for, which are like Eldritch Knights and Arcane Trickster Rogues, they have an amount equal to their number of spell slots plus their proficiency bonus. So it keeps it pretty low. But like I said, I was curious to see how this lined up versus what I have had. So I went and I did the math. Now, I'm going to take these real quick, and I'm going to copy them and paste them right here. And we're going to place values only. And I want to do that for this as well. Values only, and same for the warlock. Oh, we already had we already had that one. Okay. So here is how it works out with this. Now, let me, you know what? Hold on. Let me do this. That's fine. No. Okay, we're gonna hide those. There we go. Okay, so the one on the left, this is, I'm gonna put here, Nimble, and Lucas. Actually, this one is reversed. Okay, so here's how it pans out. Nimble basically gets half. That's about it. So, as you can see here on full casters, at first level, they start out with a number of spells, their number of spell slots plus their level. So they actually start out with one more than where I was starting them out as. At second level, they have 3 plus 2 for their level. So they actually have more spells that they can cast. They can cast 5 first level spells at second level versus in my system where they could cast 3. Now at third level, they are getting only the amount of spell slots that they have. So 4 plus 2, and then they're getting their spell level. I mean, they're getting their character level. So 6 plus 3, 9. And this is where it starts to deviate. Because as we start getting up into third level spell slots, these spell slots are worth considerably more. So at fifth level, on the Nimble side of things, they are getting 4, 3, and 2. 9 plus 5, 14. Versus mine, where it's 4 plus 12, 4 plus 6 plus another 6. So mine goes up drastically. And actually, you know what? I'm very curious. I can make a pie chart. I can make a line graph out of this. Oh, I forget how to do that. Hold on. I can make a line graph out of this. Chart. Line. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's pulling different coordinates. Okay, hold on. Nah, here. We're gonna do this. Insert chart. I want it to be a line chart. And now we're gonna add another series. what would that be? N25 to N45. Come on. Here we go. N25 to N45. There we go. Okay. That's what I wanted it to look like. So there. This is showing how, when it comes to full casters, you can see that mine kind of goes like up and then goes very quickly out of control. Whereas theirs is much more subdued and never goes over 50. And as much as I would like to pat myself on the back and say that my system is better, I honestly really like their system. I really appreciate how they did it. No, we don't want out of control magic. And see, this is actually where I lean into this idea of having this amount of points, because this means that you don't have to sit there and say, okay, well, you can only cast like an 8th level spell so many times. Yeah, if you want out of control magic, yeah, play a wild magic sorcerer. But it means that your players aren't gonna like be able to cast, 9th level spells 9 times in a day. It means you could maybe cast them 3 times, but you're not going to cast anything else. But you could cast multiple 7th level spells, and beyond. But I just kind of want to point that out. Like, with this system, these full casters, they get a ton of options, and I don't feel like I would have to limit them. And kind of the same goes with the half casters. The half casters at full level are going to be able to cast a lot more higher level spells. And that's the whole reason why they did this. Okay. Like it says here, too often does a spellcaster have a single high level spell slot and will hoard it preciously, thinking that there's going to be another big encounter that they have to save it for. Having a system like this, where you are not, you have more control over what spells you want to. If I'm an 8th level wizard, I know I have 20 points that I can spend. If I have 4th level spell slots, I don't want to have to, it's like, and I use one on, something like, I don't know, what, like Agonizer Scorcher or something like that. I don't even know if that is. Is that a 4th level? Was that right? 2nd level. Ah, shit. Anyway, but it's like having these, taking off these limitations means that if I wanted to cast 4th level spells like, Fire Shield, or Conjure Elementals, or Banishment, Aura of Purity, I'm not sitting there questioning, it's like, I can only do that twice. Granted, you can only do it 5 times, and you're not gonna be able to cast anything else, but it allows so much more versatility. So I appreciate this. I appreciate the way that they did this, because it also means that for somebody like a half caster, it's raising appropriately. Okay. Having it tied to the proficiency bonus, that's honestly, just as good as, having up here for the full casters, it tying to your level, as the bonus. So yeah, I really like this. And then anytime a full caster levels up, they increase it by 1 for their level. And they, get 1 as part of their bonus if they get another spell slot. All right. Moving on to monsters. Monsters. Generally, I do like having a pool of magic ability rather than spell slots. No one wants to have to upcast just because, yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, it means that you're not going to have to worry about, you know, upcasting your lower levels just because you don't have a lesser spell slot. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. The problem, and here's the reality of it, okay? Here's the biggest hurdle in utilizing a system like this. D&D Beyond is not set up for it. Even though mana and spell points are an alternate variant rule in 5e, they're not really set up for it. But this is actually why I'm really excited, because this system actually has its own character sheets. I think that's really cool. And as you can see, there's a lot of things that are different here. A lot of things that are actually different here. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, even more. Oh, there's the fillable one. Actually, I like these a lot better. We'll get to that. We'll get to the stuff, because this actually changes a lot of stuff. So monsters use the standard move action, bonus action, reaction as in 5e. They do not use action points or heroic reactions. A DM can use any compatible 5e monster stat block as written. Only 2 small tweaks are made and can be done on the fly. So their attacks, monsters roll their damage dice plus their stat modifier as usual, and they miss on a 1 and crit by rolling the maximum. So if you are pulling up with a bugbear, for example, not big bear, a bugbear, for example, with their great club or morning star, for example, that is 2d8 plus 2. So you are just doing that normal thing of, we're gonna roll 2d8. My main dice was a 5. I got a 1 on my other one, so I'm gonna deal 6 plus 2, 8 points of damage. And if I roll a critical, because I just rolled a 6 on here, great. I get to roll another one and add it into that. That was another 6. That was a 3. So that would be 15 plus 2. So we are looking at 17 points of damage. A lot of damage. Also, the other thing that changes is the AC. So an armor class of 0 to 13. Okay, hold on. Wait, no, it's not that. Is it this one? Yes. Sorry, one moment. Okay. So, light armor. I have the example pulled up of, where's my page? Come on, damn it. Yeah, where's my other, there it is. All right, so light armor, something like a gray ooze, okay? when a player when a player hits a gray ooze, they are light armor. They're gonna take the damage dice, and the ability modifier of the player as normal. So if I am a fighter, and let's say that I'm using that greatsword like we talked about before, and I'm attacking this. Well, actually, you know, let me swap it up. I want to attack with a great axe now. I'm going to attack with a D12. Okay. So I'm going to roll to attack this gray ooze, and I'm attacking with my great axe, and I rolled a 4. Cool. Let's say I have a +4 to strength. I deal 8 damage to that ooze. That's it. Super easy. All right. Next in line is a bugbear. A bugbear has 16 AC. It has medium armor. That's what it's categorized as. It is only going to take damage from the dice. So instead of taking the 4 plus my strength, I am just rolling the dice. So I only get that 4. So you ignore all damage modifiers. This includes strength and dex bonuses or spell or abilities like agonizing blast that allow you to add your charisma modifier. Now, a heavy armored creature like an adult red dragon, for example, that has a 19 AC, this is that it is going to take half damage from all sources. Now, arguably, the way that I read this is that this means that they are still, this is not like a stacking thing, so they are just taking half damage. So if I am, like I said, if I'm that barbarian and I'm fighting with my great axe and I roll a 4 and I have a +4 to hit with as my strength, that to me says that this thing is going to take 4 points of damage. That would really suck for it to only be the dice. But yeah, half damage from all sources rounded up. Player character critical hits, spell saving throws, and damage type vulnerabilities ignore monsters' armor altogether. So, for example, let's pull up a skeleton. Skeletons are considered light armored, and they're vulnerable to bludgeoning. So I would be doing extra damage. I would be rolling that as normal and would not have to worry about it. Here, let's see. Do we have anything else? With let's see. Let's say lightning vulnerability. Swarm of mechanical spiders are vulnerable. Oh, that's interesting. Huh, I didn't know that. But basically, if something had boner, yeah. If something had medium armor, if something's AC was between 14 and 17, and it had vulnerability and you hit it, you get to ignore that. Or if something with heavy armor, like a construct, for example, would be vulnerable to thunder damage. Thunder probably would have been a better option for me to choose, actually. Earth Elemental, there we go. So, an Earth Elemental is going to take the ability modifier extra amount of damage as well. So, I'm all for this. I like this system. It's honestly fairly easy. Monster difficulty for an easier game, limit exploding criticals. Let's downsize this for a moment. So, monster difficulty for an easier game, limit exploding critical hits from monsters for 1 per attack. For hard mode, add the monsters to hit bonus instead of its attribute modifier. So, the difference there is that something like a skeleton with its short sword has 1d6 plus 2 damage, but it's plus 4 to hit, so it would be a little bit more. When it says monsters, does it mean foes? Because not every PCs are... Yes. Yes? I mean, it's called a monster manual, and there are plenty of things in there that aren't monsters, so I don't know much things that specifically refer to them as foes. But yes, when it says monsters, it is referring to anything that the players are fighting. Yeah, so I like this. Also, right down here, minions. Tons of minions are super fun to chop down as a player, and best of all, with these rolls, they're easy for the DM to run. Use a single damage die for each minion and roll them all at the same time. 1d4 for weak minions, up to 1d12 for stronger minions. Minions do not use modifiers, they miss on a 1, do not crit, and PCs can dodge/block minion attacks as if they were a single attack. Any damage kills minions, no need to track HP individually, and a crit can kill more than one if it makes sense. So this is really cool because this means you can just add, you know, you have like a bugbear warlord and you have a bunch of goblins that are following around him, or you have a mage, you know, you have like a powerful mage that the players are fighting, and maybe he has a bunch of little like elemental constructs or like little arcano-mechanical spiders that are scurrying around. I mean, some are humanoids and they have different sorts of stats. What? Says monster. Yeah, I mean, some of them, yeah, but still, like, there's still like non-monster things in the monster manual, like a crab or a cat. So, I mean, you could just argue it's anything that you are attacking falls under these rules. Yeah, the designer notes, we can keep the feeling of a tough, high CR monster without the frustration of constantly missing attacks or ballooning HP. This also speeds up play. By no longer needing to add modifiers to every attack, we lower the mathematical overhead while maintaining the game balance. This also creates a subtly tactile rock, paper, scissors situation where different weapons or attack types are better suited for different foes. Not so much that it warps the game, but just enough for tactically minded players to notice and take advantage of. Large D10 or D12 weapons like long swords, or like two-handed long swords, great swords, or great axes are best against light armor since they rarely miss and can add powerful damage modifiers. Small weapons, 1d4 or d4 or d6, like daggers and short swords, with their more frequent critical hits, are best against heavy armor since they more frequently ignore the steep damage reduction. Medium D8 weapons like a standard longsword, or a one-handed wielded longsword, are more versatile against various kinds of armor. Spell attacks are best against medium armor since they don't have to rely on modifiers. So that's going to be stuff like, guiding bolts and chaos bolt and stuff like that, or chromatic orb. And spell saves are best against heavy armor since they ignore armor altogether. Distinct types of monster armor also make each weapon feel different while not warping the damage curve and breaking the math of the game. Daggers deal very spiky damage, frequently failing to connect, but other times dealing a devastating blow, slipping between the plates of heavy armor. On the other hand, a great axe will deal more consistent damage, rarely critting, but also rarely missing. Now, +3 weapons and elemental weapons like flame tongues feel more distinct too. So this is going to mean weapons that give you different damage types. So if you have a flame tongue, great sword, where you get to roll, multiple sets of damage, you are really exploding these up. And I like this. I actually really like this distinction of how, like, smaller weapons, because there is, on a D4, you have a 25% chance of critting now. It's not, when you're rolling a D20, you have a 5% chance to crit or critically miss. But on a D4, you have a 25% chance to crit. I mean, I can roll 2 of them right now, and I just critically missed. I roll it again, and I got a 2. I rolled it again, and I got a 4. So right there, out of 3 rolls, I missed one, I hit with another, and I crit with the third. And that's it. I didn't have to roll any D20s. I didn't have to worry about what my dexterity bonus was, or my proficiency, or nothing like that. It was just rolling the damage. And the nice thing is with this is that, you're still taking into account the monster's AC. You're just doing it in a more generalized manner. I like this. I honestly, and I want to point this out. When I first read Nimble in the preview, I was not sold on it. Okay. I thought it was dumb. Now that I have actually had time to read it and consider this stuff, I actually don't mind it. All right. So, moving on to feats and abilities. Now, these are specific things that come from standard 5e that need to be altered a little bit because of the changes that have been made to this system. So, abilities that allow actions to be made as bonus actions, such as cunning action, can be done for 0 AP once per round, just across the board. Racial proficiencies or abilities that grant extra skill bonuses instead give 1 skill point instead. And you'll see that coming up here very soon, what that refers to. That might not make any sense right now. If an ability seems overpowered, limit it to once per round. If it seems underpowered, let your player do the cool thing and look it up later. A bonus or penalty to hit can be a bonus or penalty to damage instead. So Bless or Bane, you can just add or subtract that D4 to the damage you're rolling. So if you're attacking with a short sword, you roll that extra D4 with it. I just rolled a 6. I got a crit. I rolled a 5. I have 11, but let's say that I was baned. I rolled a 1 on my D4, so I'm going to only deal 10 points of damage. Action Surge, gain 1 AP. You can attack with it as if it was your first attack, so you're not going to get that map, that multi-action penalty. Assassinate, if you roll a 20 or above on initiative, your first attack with a finesse or ranged weapon triggers sneak damage and is an automatic crit. Archery fighting style, Bless Bane, you add or subtract a D4 instead of affecting your chance to hit. So the archery fighting style adds a bonus to your hit, but obviously we're not playing with that. So if you had that longbow, it's just gonna be the damage die and an additional D4. Bardic Inspiration is a reaction, can use that to add the Bardic Inspiration die to a D20 roll, or you can allow them to re-roll 1 damage die for an ally. Called Shot. Ranged weapon attacks you make ignore cover, and the normal range is doubled. You may replace a ranged attack with a called shot. It misses on a 3 or less. If you hit, roll an additional die that can explode. So I actually thought this was pretty interesting, because you are, it's kind of like the Great Weapon Master, where you're taking a risk to miss, but if you hit, it's doing considerably more damage. Dazed is a new status. This is basically a replacement for stuff like sleep, unconscious, incapacitated, and stuff like that. Things that would take you out of combat. It basically means that you just have a -1 penalty to your action points. So I actually super like that, because it keeps players in combat, but it does add a penalty because they can do less things. So empowered spell. So empowered spell is a meta magic for the sorcerer. This is that you can spend a sorcery point to reroll a number of damage dice equal to your charisma modifier. So what this is saying is that you can do that, but if you are rolling and you roll like a critical miss, or if you roll a 1 and you miss, you cannot turn that into a hit. You can roll, you can re-roll to try and get more damage, but you are risking that opportunity to miss. Expertise gives you a bonus skill point per level in that class. And again, we'll get to how skill points have changed. Extra attack can be made for free after your first attack during your turn. Fireball costs 3 action points. This was actually a big thing that I wasn't sure about when we read the preview. But yes, Fireball costs 3 points. So this way, if you have something that does give you any extra AP or whatever, you cannot do it multiple times. Great weapon fighting, which is, I always mix that up with Great Weapon Master. Oh yeah, that's the one where if you roll a 1 or a 2 on a damage die, you can re-roll that, and you have to take the new roll. That can only be done once per round, but that also means that you can turn a miss into a hit. Great Strike. The first time you reduce a creature to 0 hit points on your turn, you may make an additional attack for 0 AP. You may replace any two-handed melee weapon attack with a Great Strike. It misses on a 4 or less, 2 or less for the 2d6 weapons, and if you hit, it explodes. This is essentially the same thing as Great Weapon Master. This is essentially giving you, you know, the same things where if you reduce a creature, you get another attack, and you can risk it for the biscuit. All spells of 6th level or higher cost 3 action points to maintain a better level. I appreciate that. That's a smart change, because if you have a higher level spell that costs a bonus action, and you can cast 3 of those, that is ridiculous. Critical hit dice are rolled with advantage. If a 1d8 longsword crits, roll 2d8 and take the highest result. So there you go. Jack of all trades. Any skill modifier that is 0 or less is treated as a +1. Again, we'll get into how skills are handled. The light weapon property. The first time you attack on your turn while wielding 2 light weapons, you may make an offhand attack with no stat modifier. So it's, you know, working very much like the bonus action was. We already talked a little bit about patient defense. Spend a key point. Oh, but we didn't talk about how it works. Spend 1 key point when you block or dodge to add your monk level to your AC for 1 attack. Quicken spell reduces the AP cost of a spell by 1, and you can only do that once per round. The shield spell adds a +5 to your AC for one attack and grants a free block/dodge reaction. So not only are you getting that bonus, initial bump of +5 for the attack, but you are also getting a free ability to reduce damage if it still hits. Okay, because that's the thing, you use a reaction, you don't necessarily know if it's gonna hit or not, or if that's gonna be your benefit. And I, as a DM, generally try and say, like, hey, don't waste it, because you're just wasting a spell slot, because a +5, it's still gonna hit. But I actually like that this gives you a free reaction, so I actually really am up for this. And Shield Adept, you can use the block/dodge reaction twice per round while wearing a shield. If you attack on your turn, you can use the shove action for free once per round. I actually really like that. Again, we'll get the skills later. Spare the Dying. Give a dying creature 1 hit point. So it actually does something now. You're not just stabilizing somebody, you are healing someone. So good for that. Cost 0 AP, spend 1 key point to make 2 unarmed strikes instead, once per round. Yep. Unarmored defense, use proficiency bonus instead of con. We'll get to that too later. Uncanny dodge, add your proficiency bonus to your AC. When using block/dodge reaction, you may use your AC bonus or have the damage instead. So you can either increase your AC, you can whenever you're reducing it, you can either reduce it by your AC modifier, or you can just have it. And Wild Shape costs 1 action point to multi-attack once per round. So if you have a form that can multi-attack, like a dire wolf, for example, it's 1 action point to use multi-attack. For rushed attacks, pick one of the creature's attacks to perform. Use your own HP while Wild Shape, but gain temporary hit points equal to your Druid level plus spellcasting mod. That's actually pretty nice. That's actually a really good, simple thing. So I'm all about that. Oh, I like this. Many 5e feats and abilities are not available in the SRD. Yeah. The fact that he was able to do this at all is just a good thing. So yeah, if you have any more questions about it, nimble.com/discord. All right. I'm not going to go over all these, but I want to talk about how, because we've been going now for about 2 hours, and I want to get to one of the things that has changed drastically in this system. Okay. Character creation and leveling up. Awesome. Choose a stat array for your main ability scores, then allocate 3 additional points in at least 2 different backgrounds. So when you're making your character in this system, you pick either a balanced system, a standard system, or a min-max system. And then you get to apply 3 points into at least 2 different things. So you could not take, say, standard and put 3 points into that 15 to make it an 18. It has to be in at least 2. And I actually really like this because I think it gives you a little bit more variety, where you do have 3 different kinds of stat blocks that you get to choose from. So I think this is a cool way to do it, since they are doing things fairly differently. Also, saves. Choose 1 saving throw proficiency that fits with your class or background. A character can only have proficiency with 1 kind of save. That changes things, because there are feats that give you additional, that give you proficiency in additional saves. So I'd be curious to see how those would work. I guess it would be up to the DM at the end. Skills. Proficiency bonus is no longer added to skills. This is where I was talking about it changing. Instead, when you make your character, you allocate 6 points in addition to the bonuses granted by your ability score modifiers into at least 3 different skills. So, no longer is it that when you are when you are making your character, you get to pick proficiencies. With this, you are applying 6 points in at least 3 different skills. Now that means that you can apply 2 points to 3 different skills. You could apply 2 points to 2 skills and 1 point to another 2 skills. You could do 1 point to 6 different skills. It just has to be in at least 3 different skills. Hit points: to get your HP at level 1, roll your hit die with advantage, add that to the maximum die roll. So you might be asking yourself, well, why wouldn't you just add your constitution modifier? Right there. Oh, we went too far. Right there. Constitution was removed. It's not a thing in this system. Constitution is not used to derive any skills and overlaps so much with strength that it has been removed to reduce needless complexity in the character sheet. HP is now a function of class. That's why it says to get your HP, roll your hit die with advantage and add that to the maximum. When you level up, you roll your hit die with advantage and increase your maximum HP by that amount. Or, arguably, you could just, do the math and figure out what is the average of rolling, say, 2d12. Well, we can go to any dice. Let's say that we're playing a barbarian. Okay? Or actually, right here, they do have it. Grudge the fighter rolls 2d10. Stop doing that. I hate the middle click on this new... I got a new PDF reader, and I don't know if I like it yet. So, if we're playing Grudge, and we're playing a fighter, and we have 2d10... we get 2 and 7, so we get 10 plus 7. You start out with 17 hit points. When we level up again, we're going to roll 2d10. So the normal array of that is, for 2d10, the average, or for 1d10, the average is 5.5. Now, when you get to roll with advantage... that changes how dice are accounted. I want to say on a D20 you can add 4 point something, and that's essentially what advantage is. It's like a bonus of 5. So I would imagine something like a D10, it would be like a bonus of 2. So you would almost have to say okay, if you want to do it on average, you're gonna add your damage die plus 1 or 2, and I would say maybe 2 at most. But also rolling is fun. I mean this is one of the times that players do like to roll, or players could roll, and it would, I would say always, re-roll 1 and 2s. But yeah, Constitution is removed. This was the part when I was reading this where I was clutching my pearls, oh my god, you removed, Constitution? How dare you? But like it says here, Dexterity is a notoriously overvalued ability score in 5e. AC, finesse attacks, range attacks, initiative, stealth, and the most common saving throw. By separating some of its benefits across other abilities, there's more interesting choices that can be made and fewer dump stats. Wisdom, aiding in initiative, so it's now wisdom is your initiative, which arguably perception is what is used in Pathfinder. Pathfinder 2e uses perception for initiative. How quickly can you take in a situation to then be able to react? It's not just everyone takes it all in at the same time and who's the fastest one to move. It is now how quickly can you take in your surroundings to be able to move. A wisdom-based cleric might sense danger because their deity forewarned them. If you spot the danger first, you have more time to act. I liked this. It is used to base some of HP. Yeah, though that's the thing. It very much was used to base hit points. But since your hit points are no longer, your hit points are now just tied to your class. Okay, a fighter uses D10s for their hit dice. Okay, so a fighter would have 1d10 plus their constitution modifier. So let's say it's a +4. Okay, so let's say I'm rolling to see how many hit points my character is going to get. I just rolled a 4, and let's say I have a +4, so I'm going to get 8 hit points on this level up. Now we can take the average. We can say 5.5 or 6, because that's the average, and add the modifier to that. So just as simple as that. So that would be, 6 + 4, 10. I get 10 every time I level up. But because we're not tying it to Constitution, we just are adding we're just using 2 of our dice. That's essentially all it is. And in reality, it means that you are going to have more hit points. Okay? Like, if you're rolling, if a barbarian is well, I guess they wouldn't have more hit points. No, I take that back. Yeah, when you level up, roll your hit die with advantage, increase. Yeah, but, well, excuse me. You are technically starting out with more hit dice. That actually is true. Because you're rolling one with advantage and you're getting even more beyond that. But the thing is that it means that somebody who has a low constitution score isn't sitting there poo-pooing the fact that, they couldn't afford to put something better into con, or they wanted to use it, but they had to limit something else. It also means that your point scores can be more advantageous. You don't have to worry about having, a dump stat necessarily, because you can put more points into stuff. So, it's definitely different. It is extremely different. But honestly, it's not bad. But yeah, the main ability scores. Strength affects strength saves, intimidation, resistance to exhaustion, and carrying capacity. So resistance to exhaustion, there's your con saves. Strength is just used to push through that. Dexterity is your dex saves, stealth, sleight of hand, and ranged weapon attacks. Intelligence is arcana, examination, and lore, and will saves, which we'll get into that. Wisdom affects initiative, nature, craft, perception, and will saves. Charisma affects insight, influence, and will saves. Now you might be asking, what's a will save? Well, very simple. It's an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma save. Anything that is out there in a character, in a monster stat block, or in a spell that says make an intelligence save, make a wisdom save, make a charisma save, it is just a will save. So this is your like it says here, this is your ability to resist mind-altering effects, see through illusions, or retain your composure. The player uses the sum of the highest and lowest of these 3 abilities as their will save. So a wizard with a +5 to intelligence, a -1 to wisdom and a +3 to charisma would have a +4 will save, because that's the 5 minus 1. A character with a +4 intelligence, +2 to wisdom, +2 to charisma has a 6 will save. Okay. A DM would normally call for con saves or checks. A strength save or check is used instead. So this arguably means that wizards should not be dumping strength. Strength is no longer just your strength of muscle, but it's your strength of mind. You know, that is now playing more into it. Like it says here, it is exceedingly rare for a charisma or intelligence save, but they can be debilitating when they happen. Bards can now resist mind control though through sheer force of their charismatic personality, and wizards because of their intellect. Now, strength is less of a dump stat, even for spellcasters. They can still ignore it, but they'll be more frail in combat. And honestly, I love this. Getting rid of Constitution in this system is not bad, and I think it's an easy way to, you know, balance to add a little bit more balance to some of those situations. Secondary stats: armor class. It reflects your ability to resist, absorb, dodge incoming damage. You can use a reaction to block or dodge, negating damage equal to your AC modifier, which is -8. Grudge, with an AC of 15, has an AC modifier of 7. So AC of 15. So let's say I'm wearing, you know, heavy plate and have a shield. Okay. So plate armor is what? 18, I believe. 18, yeah. So if my characters if I'm playing a paladin and I have plate armor and a shield, my AC is 20. -8 is 12. So that means my AC modifier is 12. So anytime that I go to block or dodge, I can deflect 12 points of damage from a single attack. I'm all for that. Hit points reflects your fortitude and ability to take damage and stay on your feet. At level 1, roll your hit die with advantage. Each time you level up, roll your hit die with advantage and add that to your maximum HP. Rolling your hit dice with advantage compensates for the removal of con. It also helps at the very fragile lower levels without bloating HP at higher levels. And this is the truest shit in the fucking world. Okay? As a DM, I have had the pleasure / displeasure of having players at very high levels at this point in my career. Okay? I have run numerous campaigns that have seen high level play. Okay? There is nothing more frustrating than throwing multiple encounters at your players just for them to walk away and wipe their hands because they still have but tons of HP. And the only time that you can really tax somebody down in combat to even make them feel like there's a danger to what they're doing is if you hyper focus and target them, is if you pick on them. Okay? And everybody hates that. Like, why is every single person going after the barbarian? Well, because the barbarian has 230 hit points, and I want them to at least feel like they're in danger. You know, and the problem is like you can crank up the damage output of your monsters, but the problem that you play into with that is the same problem that DMs face when they have players of varied levels in a campaign. Steve always feels in danger. Okay, but here's the thing. If we're looking at P5, let me look at something real quick. Okay. if we are looking at P5 and I want to, you know, do a bunch of damage to, you know, to the party, and let's say I do 60 points of damage. No, you know what? Let's say I do 70. I'm going to do 70 points of damage in some large amount of attacks. Okay. That is whatever I'm doing. Somebody's going to take 70 points of damage. Now, if I hit Cephas, that drops him from 148 hit points down to 78 hit points. Arguably, he is still at more than half of his hit points. If I hit Smith with that, I down Smith. Like, that's the thing. His low HP is when he's at Smith's max. That's exactly it. Okay? So the problem is when you have players in your party that have such a massive hit point discrepancy, it means that throwing something like, you know, a giant lightning ball or, you know, like a lightning bolt at one player is going to be a mild annoyance, Cephas, but throwing it at Smith could literally kill him. Or not kill him, but down him. This is why I actually, and again, this is like I said, when DMs have players in their party that are different levels. If I had somebody who was level 3 and I had somebody who was level 4 and somebody who was level 5, am I making encounters for a 4th level group because that's the average? Because the 5th level character might not feel like they're being challenged. They might walk through stuff, but the 3rd level character might feel like they're in a peril, you know, just by walking around. Steve does talk as if he feels risk more often than I think he realizes. Well, and that's the thing. You know, Steve plays somebody who has a lot of hit points, can do a lot of damage, but, you know, the thing is that Steve also has fairly good AC. He's fairly rock solid, which is honestly why I try and throw, and a lot of DMs do this with, you know, their tankier characters. It's why you try and throw more saving throws at them, you know, dexterity saves and stuff like that, because that's where they normally falter. But arguably being a barbarian gives you, you know, bonuses to that. But at the same time, as a DM, you also don't want to like build a game around exploiting the intricate weaknesses of characters just to fuck with them. You know, one of my a player in my library group, for example, who plays a Dragonborn barbarian, wants nothing more than to have as many hit points as possible. They took the tough feat. They are constantly, you know, buying health potions and stuff. They're trying to figure out ways to like get temporary hit points because they always want to be up. They always want to be up and doing something. Because they don't want to, you know, suddenly drop down and, you know, be out of the fight. So this is like their idea of being strong is having as many hit points as possible. They want like a periapt of health and things like that. But it's like that puts a lot of strain on a DM when you have that super high variance. But anyway, initiative, your ability to sense danger coming. Roll 1d20, add your wisdom modifier to any initiative rolls. Rather than affecting how soon in the round you act, initiative affects how many action points you have on the first round of combat. The order in which PCs act matters less this way. to default, whatever player is ready to go or is ready first goes first, with play proceeding around the table clockwise. Alternatively, a DM can choose a player that makes the most narrative sense to go first. Since initiative determines how much a PC can do in one round, a high initiative is still rewarded if they go last. So this in itself is something that a lot of other initiative systems have done in the past, where initiative is less important when it comes to like when you go in combat, because it's more about, you know, like who go, you know, kind of just who goes first in a lot of those. I actually really appreciate this one. So when you're rolling initiative, because we're not tying it to going first, you're tying it to how much you have seen and how much you are able to act, and that is going to play into what can you do. So if you have surprise, if you are surprising somebody, you roll with advantage or disadvantage if you're surprised. And to help remember, a single digit in initiative, you get a single point on your first turn. Double digits, you get 2, and anything over a 20, you have 3. Honestly, I like this. I like this because it means that if you roll low, you're not taking in the whole scene. Okay? So on your first turn, you might only be able to move, and you're going to position yourself. Then on your next turn, now you can act. Now you can do normally. But if you have very high perception, or if you have very high wisdom and you're able to take in a lot of information, you can get into combat, you can move, you can position yourself, take those first couple shots. And I also like the fact that this is just kind of like, hey, whoever's ready to go first, go. Like, oh, the rogue, okay, yeah, the rogue probably, you know, is good, so go ahead. Or even just let the party decide amongst themselves, like, okay, well, if I go first, I have, you know, I rolled an 18 on my initiative, so I have 2 points, so I can move, and then I can cast darkness. And then the paladin can go because he has blind sight and rolled a 24 to initiative, so you can get in there and you can hit at least 1 or 2 people, and then from there, whatever is left, you know, the ranger can handle what's on the outside. Like, this honestly leaves it up to more creation, or more creativity when it comes to combat. And like it says here, DMs not having to pull the entire party for initiative, write down all the names in order, and track everyone's turn, reminding players that their turn is coming up next, is a huge time saver. If the player next to you is going, you're next. It's that easy. The DM can still roll for or decide when monsters go, i.e., 1 monster after each PC, or simply let all the bad guys act after all the PCs. This won't usually result in a lopsided encounter since actions are somewhat limited during the first round. It's mostly about tactical positionings and getting in a small hit or 2. Spellcasters may need help from allies to set up a big fireball first, since they won't be able to cast it on their first turn if they rolled low or spent action points dodging incoming damage. And this is it. This makes the first round, this makes those encounters where you can like wipe through half an entire army in the first round. It makes those combats you know, take a little bit longer. And I understand this whole thing's supposed to be about making combat go faster, but that's the reality of it. Having one round where you're mostly just positioning yourself actually won't feel as bad if the rest of it is moving as quickly as possible. All right, moving on to skills. So they got rid of a bunch of skills. Animal handling, nature, and survival are now naturecraft. Medicine and investigation is now examination. History and religion is now lore. Redundant stats like athletics and acrobatics are now simply strength and dexterity checks. Other skills that now use stats can make more sense. Intimidation uses strength instead of charisma. Insight uses charisma instead of wisdom. The remaining choices are more meaningful. So, skills are also no longer tied to proficiency bonuses. Instead, at level 1, you mark the bonuses granted by your main ability score modifiers. Then you allocate 6 points into 3 skills, and each time you level up, you gain 1 skill point to any skill, and you can move 1 skill point to another skill. I love this. This means since you have less skills to worry about, it means that you can allocate your points into more specific things, or I mean, not specific, literally the opposite, into more generic ideas to give yourself a wider berth to work with. But it also means that since you are gaining a skill point every single time you level up, you are actively getting better at skills, and it's not just tied to, oh, at level 1, I became proficient with this, so now I'm proficient with this until I hit level 20. Okay? The fact that you can move skill points from one skill to another, showing how your character develops interest over the course of a campaign, is phenomenal. And honestly, it is something to consider in main campaigns as well. Okay? The ability to move a proficiency seems so much more of a thing, because when you're proficient in a skill, you add your proficiency bonus. That could be a +3 or +4. So suddenly, going from having a +3 or 4, or, I mean, it's a 2 to a 6, but like going from like a +4 in survival to suddenly having a +4 in religion does not make a lot of sense. But if you start out with survival, but then you realize, like, over time your character is starting to dig into religion, and your character has moved out of the wilderness and is starting to come into their own, into a more religious kind of play style. Well, okay, cool. Over the next 3 level ups, I'm going to move that point out of survival and into religion, or lore, arguably. But I love this. Yeah. So Arcana, your ability to understore magic, spells, and objects. Pretty simple. Examination, from doctors to detectives. This is your ability to diagnose and treat injuries, uncover the cause of death, understand clues, and figure out how a device or trap works. Basically, if you are trying to figure something out about something, it's examination. You are examining it. Versus perception, which is still taking in everything around you. Influence, your ability to convince or deceive people, get them to like you, haggle, gain trust, make deals, win allies, or put on an entertaining show. I love that this combines persuasion and deception. Too many times I make a character, or I've seen somebody make a character who's like super high in deception, but then they want to influence somebody, and they now have to think like, well, how am I going to word this so that I can like deceive them, but also keep them as my friend and still get my way because I took proficiency in deception. Influence just seems so much better. Insight, being based on charisma. Okay. I get this, but I can see it going both ways. Okay. It was originally wisdom, but I get that this is more about you are in tune with people's emotions, and that could be because you are in tune with your own emotions. But it also, truth be told, is just to balance it out. If this was a wisdom score or a wisdom skill, then that means that charisma is only affecting one thing. So I really do think that this was more of a mechanical thing. You know, like it says here, other skills now use stats that make more sense. I could see insight going both ways. Intimidation being tied to strength. Truthfully, I think it can also still go charisma. I think a paladin who has super high charisma could be it, you know, or a bard could play up, you know, some terrifying thing that you know, that intimidates somebody. So, and that's always going to be, you know, more leaning on the DM to say whether or not they would allow somebody to play up, you know, using charisma, because that's allowed anyway. Sorry, I'm putting my dice away. Lore, just overall general. This is history. This is your knowledge on different things. Okay, history and religion. This is your knowledge of gods. This is your knowledge of the history. This is your knowledge of creatures, but only certain creatures, mostly magical creatures, because naturecraft is your knowledge of the wilderness and natural things. So naturecraft ties in with beasts, monstrosities, and plants, whereas lore deals with the more magical and arcane creatures like celestials, fae, fiend, undead, and stuff like that. And then everything else is pretty much the same. Sleight of hand and stealth work exactly the same. Same with perception, so go figure. Those would still be the same. Yeah, here we go. Nimble light, alternate fast combat rolls. If you'd like to stick closer to 5e rolls, here's a couple different options for faster combat. You could just use the monster balance to speed things up, or the additional rolls further down the page to make things even faster. These can be used with or without the nimble rolls for action points, reactions, dying, and blah, blah, blah. So, monster balance. Missing an attack and wasting your turn is not fun for DMs or PCs. It should still be a possibility, but not the norm. To alleviate this, a DM can reduce a creature's AC by 3 or 5 and increase their hit points by 30 to 50%. To keep combat moving along, increase the monster's chance to hit by 1 to 3 as well, and use the monster's average damage. That, truthfully, is one of the best things I have read in a long time. Okay? I could throw this into my campaigns right now, and I honestly feel like this monster balance thing would make players' experiences better in the campaigns, because it would mean by reducing the armor class of a creature, it means that players are hitting them more often. By increasing the hit points, it means that it's taking the same amount of turns to possibly kill them as if the players missed their attacks. And by increasing a monster's chance to hit by 1 to 3 and using the average damage makes things go faster, but also makes monsters still just as dangerous, if not a little bit more. I actually like this, and I'm probably just going to start using this, truth be told, because I hate like when somebody in one of my games, you know, has 1 or 2 attacks and they roll to hit and they get like a 2 and it misses. I mean, a 2 is a terrible example, but like, you know, they get an 11 and they miss, and it's like, okay, well, now you can't do anything for the next 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how long, you know, the next, you know, 20 people or the next 20 creatures take to do their turns. And this phrase up here at the top, right underneath Nimble Light, wake me up when it's my turn, that fucking hit me to the core. I've had players say that to me. Okay, I've heard players say that. So this monster balance to me is like an immediate thing that I'm probably going to implement in my games. Fast attacks. Using the average damage greatly speeds up a DM's turn. We can also greatly speed up PC turns by doing something similar. Whether or not a PC hits and the damage die and the damage dealt can be both determined by a single D20 roll. There is no need to roll and calculate damage separately. The higher your D20 roll, the more damage you do. Attacks and their damage are averaged and laid out on the character sheet with one addition: heavy strikes. Heavy strikes are if a PC's attack roll exceeds the monster's AC by 10 or more, they deal extra damage equal to twice their proficiency bonus. This is calculated ahead of time and listed on the character sheet right here. Okay. Hit, heavy, crit. So the way that this works is right here. If you are playing a ranger, like this character, Elfie, the level 5 ranger, attacking an ooze that has an 8 AC, if you're rolling a D20 plus 7, and you hit with a 13, or between a 13 and an 18, you just deal your average damage. Okay. So what is the average damage of 1d8 plus 1d6 plus 5? Well, that's going to be 4. Oh, wait, how's it? But now she deals. Oh, yeah. So the average of a d8 is 5. The average of a d6 is 4. Well, actually, no, I guess it would actually be straight math with this, because the average of a D8 is 4.5. And the average of a D6 is 3.5 plus 5. That's 13 hit points. So right there, as long as you hit, you are just going to deal, as long as you hit that AC, this is the amount of damage you're doing. If you hit their AC 10 or above, you deal this amount. Okay. And if you score a crit, this is the amount of damage. Okay. That's it. That's it. You're not rolling damage dice anymore. You have averaged out your damage dice. This is it. You are just rolling to attack. It's basically the opposite of what the Nimble system was doing. So, like it says here, Elfie, the level 5 ranger, attacks an ooze with her longbow and gets an 18. This means that she hit its AC by 10 or more. The DM lets Elfie know that's a heavy strike. Normally she would do 10, but now she adds an additional 6 thanks to her added proficiency bonus, making it 16. So there we go. It's one attack. You already know how much damage you're going to do. That's faster. It's not as crunchy because you're not sitting there rolling all those damage dice. But honestly, that is one of the things that slows the game down. That's one of the things about rolling a bunch of dice, is that you have to sit there and figure out what you do. This is why games like Warhammer take 2, 3, 4 hours just to do one encounter. All right. How do I roll an attack that has multiple dice with advantage or disadvantage? If you have advantage, you roll 1 additional die per stack, and remove the lowest die for each stack. So basically, if you're rolling multiple dice, you just, and you have advantage, you just remove the lowest die out of everything. If you have disadvantage, you remove the highest die. It's pretty simple. Eldritch Blast is worded that each damage die hits, misses, or crits separately, so each one is treated as a separate primary damage die. Oh, excuse me. So a level 11 Warlock casting Eldritch Blast would roll 3d10 and would get a 1, a 4, and a 6. The 1 would miss, but the 4 and 6 would hit, so those would deal that damage. And then, yeah, how does cover work? Half cover imposes a stack of disadvantage. 3 cover, quarter imposes 2. And then some, little things in here like how do familiar works. They start one combat with an AP. They have a maximum of 2. They always attack or act immediately after their owner. They can use any of the actions and reactions that the PCs can: move, help, interpose, assess. Though familiars cannot attack, attacks against familiars are made with disadvantage, but any damage will destroy them. So basically, familiars are fodder, not really meant to be used in combat except to maybe help. How does a monster with heavy armor and damage resistance works? Anytime damage would be halved, no damage is taken instead. So if something is resistant to the damage and they have heavy armor, basically you are, unless you are like really getting into them, they're not taking anything. How would the blowgun work? Roll a d4 to see if you miss, deal 1 damage, plus strength for, I don't know about that. I hate the blowgun anyway. It needs to be stronger. Oh yeah, and here's that dazed mechanic. When a player would take away player agency in some way for PCs, incapacitation, slow, paralyze, petrify, or stun, consider replacing that ability with the new dazed status. People come to a tabletop RPG session to play, let them play. If a Medusa or cockatrice, or whatchamacallit, oh god, what's the monster? Not Bullet. What's the monsters that petrify? What am I thinking of? What? Basilisk, the other bee creature. So if a Medusa or cockatrice or basilisk attempts to petrify a PC on the first failed save, they might gain 1 stack of dazed and have a maximum of 2 AP as their body begins to slowly turn to stone. On a second failure, they gain a second stack. Now they only have 1 AP. And on the third one, they fail. They have 0 AP. They are petrified. So it actually gives them an additional round to avoid pure petrification, but it's still giving them something to do during all of it. If a monster's attack confused a PC, it should make the target spend 1 to 2 action points in a way that you choose, leaving some AP left over for them to work with. So basically, if you confuse a creature, maybe your character walks in a weird way, or casts a spell into a wall or something like that. Tactics. Move monsters every turn. This makes martial characters use their AP on movement rather than burning it all on attacking. It also helps players use opportunity attacks, go for squishy characters that deal a lot of damage, make them use their AP to avoid damage, make them run away and hide behind their stronger friends. Let the tanks feel good about blocking and interposing. The fun part for DMs is you can be far more aggressive now. Players have plenty of options to get themselves out of sticky situations, so go get them. Don't be afraid to keep attacking a PC who's at 0 hit points. They're still standing. It's what a monster would do. Leave it to the players to figure out how to save themselves. Interpose, run away, or something else. If you find monsters are dying too soon or lasting too long, consider upping or lowering the ends of the HP range in their stat blocks rather than the average. So increase or decrease their HP by 25%, basically ballooning their HP. Letting players fulfill a specific character fantasy is the heart of what makes RPGs so fun. In 5e, a heavily armored PC can basically take a nap inside of a swarm of weaker enemies and wake up unharmed and refreshed. In Nimble, being surrounded by a group of even relatively weak enemies can become deadly very quick. Using the minion role, you can still present a substantive threat while making players feel heroic. Tanks can block attacks from 6 monsters at once. Damage dealers can clear a huge swath of bad enemies with a single spell. It's great fun. And honestly, I agree with this. You know, when I first read this, when we looked at this a few weeks ago, I wasn't feeling it. I just was not feeling it. But honestly, there is some stuff in here that is good changes. Now, as we talked about, there are some massive changes that they did. So, you know, obviously on the character sheet, you can see there's a lot of changes. Okay. For example, we have, oh, I didn't mean to turn on the typewriter. For example, we have the fact that there's no constitution. You have a will save again. Exhaustion is, you know, a much bigger presence on the character sheet. We don't have nearly the amount of skills. Attacks kind of have to be figured out beforehand. And then down here, honestly, you can put whatever you want. There's actually multiple character sheets. This is the light character sheet. This is the standard one. And like it says down here, you know, you have basically everything that you can do. One action can be spent to attack, move, use a bonus action, reaction, blah, 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 blah. Rushed attacks, making more than your normally allowed attacks is allowed, but they trigger stacking disadvantage. Assess, make a skill check to uncover information, spot a weakness, and then all of your reactions. And honestly, you can just fill in this information with whatever you want. We also have this one, which takes out the item slots. Honestly, if I was playing, truthfully, this is probably what I would use to kind of keep this information in front of me. But I actually really like this. Okay. I'm very much into this whole attack system, because cutting out how many dice players are rolling is truthfully one of the best things, especially for me as the DM. It's like, if I can cut out how many dice I'm rolling, I'm all for it. But I gotta be real. Sometimes the rolling dice is part of the fun. You know, there are times where it's like, there's not very many things better than grabbing a whole handful of D6 for a fireball and watching them roll across the table. Or if you're on D&D Beyond, watching them roll across your screen. You know, like going into, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it for, you know, for fun. Do my rogue healer here. Yeah, if we want to roll, you know, 8d6, like, there's something about that feels fun. You know, you get to see all the dice on the screen. It's great. Let's say folks are dice collectors, even if they don't. Yeah, that's it. You know, I have tons of dice. You know, and it's like, if I'm attacking with advantage and I have, you know, I'm attacking with a flame tongue greatsword, you know, I'm gonna roll 2d20. I'm gonna roll my, you know, my 4d4. And who knows, maybe I'm also a ranger and I have hunter's mark on them. So, you know, I'm gonna roll, and okay, cool. I got a 4 and a 3. I missed, but I got to see as much as I could. You know, maybe I didn't hit, you know, and that's fine. But like, even doing something like this, where, okay, you know, you tell somebody, okay, go ahead and roll your attack. Well, let's actually pull up a character that has some items. I know Brondor's around here. Okay, so instead of clicking this and then clicking this, you can also just go like this and roll them both at the same time. Well, that was a nat 1. That sucked. You know, it's just as quick to go down there and click those as it is to click these, because you can only click these one at a time. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if I could just say, okay, roll, okay, I'm attacking with produce flame. All right, I rolled, I got a 15. Okay, that hits. The average of a D8 rounded up is 5. Okay, cool. They take 5 points of damage. And it's just that. It's just, I rolled, I hit. It's a, you know, it's that. But we could also use Nimble's abilities in here as well. So for example, if I wanted to hit with Produce Flame, I'm just rolling my damage die. I just dealt 3 points of damage. I didn't roll to hit, but I still did the damage. Cool. My next attack, I hit with 4 points. My next attack, I missed. Simple as that. Honestly, it's not a bad system. You know, and like I said, when I first sat down with this, I was not sold. Truth through. I was not sold on it. But after I had some time to sit down and read it today at work, honestly, it's not bad. And I would be interested in playing like a one shot or two using this system, just to see how it, how it plays. Because I could see, honestly, trying to utilize some of that stuff would not play well with with pre-existing campaigns, because there are things that are very different. But even just, going into, going in and doing, these light options of lower their AC, increase their hit points, make them hit more often. Okay, it makes them more of a threat. It makes them more spongy though, so it makes players feel like, hey, we're actually hitting them. We're actually doing something each turn. Being able to tell players like, hey, when you roll for your damage, we're just averaging it. Okay. You don't have to worry about, rolling the damage anymore. Okay. You're just going to roll to hit, or the creatures are just going to roll their saving throw. Okay. And it's like, awesome. So I'm fighting a goblin that has that has 15 hit points. Cool. I'm attacking with my mate. Well, I don't know why that didn't do anything, but we'll do Produce Flame. Nat 20. Awesome. So that means that this is this is gonna do double the damage. So it's just, normally this would be 5. It's just going to deal 10. So great. So I don't have to sit here. Now, and it would take changes to this. Obviously, if we wanted to introduce the mana system, it means that going in here, you wouldn't have these spell slots to worry about. You'd have to figure out a way to manage that. And granted, you could go into inventory and make like a custom item in there. You could make a custom item, and we're going to put weight as 0. And let's just say that we put the cost override as 1. And what the hell? Okay, that was weird. But yeah, add custom item. So we're gonna cost override as 1. We're gonna weight override as 0, and we're gonna call this a mana point. And for our character, we are a 4th level cleric. So there's our mana point. So we are a 4th level cleric. So that means that in this new system, we would have 10 mana points. So right there, 10. Actually, honestly, let's make this 0. There we go. There we go. We have 10 mana points. And anytime you want to cast your spell, you just come in here and you tack them down. Now, you could also go into, make it something very specific, because you could, I don't know if I could. There's part of me that wants to think I could. No, I don't think so. I was thinking like maybe you could make make a feat that was called mana points full caster. So the problem is a feat that has checkboxes. You have to put in specifically how many they have. That's the problem. That's inherently the problem. Can I not? Can I not with this? Okay, I guess I can't. Huh, that's weird. Wait, can I? Yeah, I guess I haven't been able to select any. What the fuck? Am I not able to like highlight stuff in this PDF reader? No, I totally am. Okay, so it's just the thing that I'm in. Okay. Oh, go and read this, everybody. Peril and Prime Book. If you're not used to D&D, and you want to run a no prep adventure, literally no prep. You do not prep this. This is literally you sit down and you play. This is for people that have not played D&D before. This is free on D&D Beyond. This was free on Twitter. This was free in the educator resources on wizards.com. This is literally like you sit down and you say, we're going to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons. Write your name in the space. Like this literally walks you through everything. If you are super new to D&D and just want to try it, only have like 30, 45, maybe an hour long, Peril and Pinebrook. Go and check it out. Okay. So I'm gonna put here Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, and Wizard. Let's put this. Number of spell slots plus level. Okay, so. Oh wait, yeah. See, this is the hard thing. You'd almost have to do that math, because you could do it in a snippet code. Technically, you could do it in a snippet code, but you wouldn't be able to get. You can't do that math. So like you can do options in here, or actions, sorry, actions, and make it general and have like an amount of times something can happen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you would do something like that, but I feel like there should be a way. And honestly, I wish there was. Other than going into something like, you know, going into your notes, you could also do that in here under other and put like, you know, mana points and just do, you know, 10 out of 10. And then this way, anytime that you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to cast heat metal. Okay, cool. I'm gonna spend 2 points. You know, you go in here and you edit it down to however many you've used, or you go into your inventory and okay, cool. I had 10 and now I'm gonna reduce that down. But the problem is there's no way to like reset it. I don't know. Maybe one day things will change on Beyond. I doubt it, but maybe one day. But yeah, overall, I like the Nimble system. I don't hate it. Like I said, when I started this out, I really was not a fan of the Nimble system. But I actually like it a lot more now that I've had time to sit with it, and read through it. I actually think it's very, very well crafted to speed things up. Granted, there are pearl clutching changes to it, getting rid of constitution, only having strength, dex, and will saves, getting rid of some skills and changing how things work. But let's be real here, the justifications that they use are there. I wish to know end for a resource where I can lay out my own character sheet online, which might exist, but there's not. I mean, other than you making your own character sheet, there's not. Like even Nexus doesn't have something like that. Like Nexus doesn't even let you edit your own. So, but I mean, hey, go make your own. Yeah, that's I'm sure that's out there. I'm sure there's ways to make paper ones out there, but until Wizards of the Coast kind of gets their stuff together, it's still going to be just, whatever they have. Do I want to make changes? No. But that's going to be it for me. We've been going for about 3 hours now, all talking about one book pretty much. We talked about another book. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the So You Want to Be a Game Master, but didn't get into this. But a heavy deep dive into the Nimble system. So if you're into this, check this out. I know you can go and buy this. He still has his Kickstarter up, so you can pre-order this if you're into it. Honestly, I like the little book. And truth be told, the layout in here in the back, for having everything you need to like level up. And funny enough, he even has stuff in here like language and tool proficiency. Common and any racial language. Choose one additional language that fits with your background, unless your intelligence is negative. Choose 2 tool or vehicle proficiencies. Pretty straightforward. Here we go. Where was it? Oh yeah, money. Real world value of copper, silver, and gold can be difficult for players to grasp. Here's some easy guidelines. 1 copper is roughly equivalent to $1. A silver is roughly equivalent to 10, and a gold is worth 100. That's how I've always looked at it. A village laborer could earn 1 copper per day, or 3 to 4 gold per year. A moderately skilled worker could earn 1 silver per day, or 30 to 40 gold per year. And a well-to-do merchant can hold 1 gold per day. Because you gotta figure, like a skill, like a village laborer earning 1 copper per day. You know, copper can go a long way back in the old days of the serf. And then also I like this. So, and I know I don't have it on the screen anymore, so I apologize for that. Hold on. Printer friendly. Where am I? Here. A small introductory village quest could be worth 150 or 1 to 50 gold per character. Medium-sized town quest could be worth 50 to 500 gold. Large city quest, 500 to 5,000. And a realm-sized quest could be worth 5,000 to 50,000 gold. That in itself right there is just a nice piece of information to have. Like this on like a DM screen, that's pretty decent. How much gold do the players get for doing this quest? 25 gold each. Okay. Cool. It was for a little village. Now they're in Neverwinter. What's this quest worth? 1,000 gold. There we go. Per character. And then we have over here different prices of stuff, because healing potions have prices, but greater healing potions, these ones didn't before. Also, giving prices on items is like taboo in 5e, but I actually like that this offers very simple pricing guidelines. Like it says here, magical weapons and armor are great and no longer mathematically game breaking. Feel free to make them more available to your players to purchase, craft, upgrade, or receive as quest rewards. Now players can think twice before chugging 3 healing potions. At 50 gold a pop, that's like drinking $15,000. Tipping a poor villager 1 gold piece is equivalent to 3 months' wages. Yeah, it's one of those things where, it kind of puts it into perspective. So, but yeah, I think with that, I'm going to bounce. So thanks for sitting with me, hanging out, listening to me talk about Nimble. A system I didn't think I would like. System up until today, thought I would, kind of hate, but actually it's not bad. So you folks have a good night, enjoy your evening. I'm gonna go probably play some video games and then go to bed. So bye everybody.